Nobody is talking about this. And that is exactly what WWE wants. While everyone was distracted by the main event, while the cameras were focused on the championship picture and the carefully scripted segments in that ring, something happened backstage on Smackdown that the company has been desperately trying to control the narrative around, and I am not going to let that happen. Not on this channel, not today, because what went down in that corridor, in that dark corner of the arena where the production trucks park and the cameras rarely point, was not a planned storyline moment. This was personal, this was brutal, and somebody is now lying in a hospital bed because of it. If WWE thinks they can sweep this under the rug and move on to next week like nothing happened, they have severely underestimated the Ring Rumble 1 community, and we are about to expose every single detail they do not want you to know. Let me paint the picture for you exactly as it happened because the sequence of events here is critical to understanding just how calculated and cold-blooded this attack truly was. The show was running smoothly. Superstars were moving through the corridors backstage, doing what they always do, preparing for matches, running lines, handling last-minute production changes. The mystery attacker, who at this point had already made enemies across the entire roster with their recent actions, was walking through one of the less monitored sections of the backstage area. No entourage, no backup, no protection, completely and utterly alone in a corridor that, not coincidentally, happens to be one of the few spots in that entire arena where camera coverage is minimal and production staff are rarely stationed. And that is when it happened. From completely out of nowhere, with the kind of speed and ferocity that suggests this was not a spontaneous decision but a meticulously planned ambush, an unknown individual emerged from the shadows and unleashed an absolute assault on the mystery attacker that left production staff frozen in shock. We are not talking about a simple attack here. We are not talking about a shove or a cheap shot or the kind of backstage brawl we have seen 100 times before on WWE programming. This was targeted. This was violent beyond what any of us expected. And when it was over, the mystery attacker was left completely motionless on that cold concrete floor, unresponsive, while the unknown assailant disappeared back into the shadows as quickly and silently as they had appeared. Left for dead, in the backstage corridors of Smackdown. On live television. Now here is where my blood starts to absolutely boil, and I need you to feel this frustration alongside me because this affects every single one of us as WWE fans. The company's response to this incident has been nothing short of insulting. We got vague statements. We got carefully worded social media posts designed to generate engagement without actually confirming anything. We got commentary teams awkwardly dancing around the subject during the broadcast as if they had been specifically told what they could and could not say. And we got silence, the loudest, most deafening, most suspicious silence you have ever heard from a company that usually cannot help itself from capitalizing on every single moment of genuine drama. Why the silence? Why the careful language? Why are there no cameras rolling in that corridor at the exact moment this attack takes place? In an era where WWE has more cameras, more production staff, and more content capture infrastructure than at any point in their entire history, why is there conveniently no clear footage of who did this? That is not bad luck. That is not a coincidence. That is a cover-up. And somebody very high up in that organization knows exactly what happened and exactly who was responsible and has made a deliberate decision to control what gets released to the public and what gets buried. I have been covering WWE on this channel long enough to know the difference between a storyline mystery and a genuine institutional panic, and what I am seeing right now from WWE's corporate communication strategy looks a whole lot more like the latter. So let us talk about the unknown wrestler. Because this is the detail that is consuming every wrestling forum, every backstage report, and every legitimate dirt sheet source right now. Who is this person? What is their motivation? And perhaps most importantly, how did they know exactly where the mystery attacker would be, at exactly that time, in exactly that location with exactly that level of isolation? Because here is the thing that nobody seems to be addressing directly enough. You do not stumble into a perfectly executed ambush like this by accident. The level of operational planning required to position yourself in an unmonitored corridor, to know your target's movement patterns, to ensure there are no witnesses and minimal camera coverage, and then to execute the attack with that level of controlled aggression before vanishing completely without being identified, that requires inside information. That requires someone who either has deep access to WWE's internal scheduling and production layout or someone who was tipped off by a person who does. This unknown wrestler had help. I would stake everything on it. And that means this is not just one rogue individual acting alone out of personal grievance. This is an organized effort. A coordinated strike. There is a network of people behind this attack, and the mystery attacker was specifically chosen as the target for reasons that go far deeper than anything we have been shown on television so far. Now let me give you my breakdown of who this unknown assailant could potentially be, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating and deeply unsettling at the same time. Think about who has the most to gain from the mystery attacker being completely removed from the equation right now. Think about whose storyline trajectory benefits the most from this power vacuum that has suddenly been created. Think about who has been lurking on the periphery of this entire situation, showing up in scenes adjacent to the main story without ever being directly implicated. The classic setup for a long-term reveal that WWE Creative has been quietly cooking for months. There are names on this roster who fit that profile perfectly. Veterans who know how this company operates inside and out. Newer talents who have been given just enough screen time to register in your subconscious without triggering your suspicion. And then there are the names that should not even be in the conversation. The ones that seem too obvious, too safe, too far removed, because in WWE storytelling, the person who seems completely impossible is almost always the person standing in the middle of the ring at the end holding all the cards. The unknown wrestler who struck on Smackdown last night is someone we already know. Someone already on this roster, or someone who has deliberately positioned themselves to return at the exact moment of maximum impact. And when the reveal finally comes, and it will come, the reaction is going to be one of the loudest, most visceral responses this audience has produced in years. But let us also talk about the victim here, because the mystery attacker being left for dead on that concrete floor is not just a plot development, it is a statement. A message sent with terrifying clarity to every single person in that locker room. The message is simple. Nobody is untouchable. Nobody is protected. It does not matter how carefully you have operated, how many allies you have cultivated, or how many enemies you think you have neutralized. If someone decides you are the target, there is nowhere in that building you are truly safe. Not the locker room, not the catering area, not the production corridors, nowhere. That message lands differently for every person backstage. For some it will create fear. For others it will create urgency. And for a select few, the ones who already know exactly who is behind this and exactly why it happened, it will create something far more complicated. Relief, perhaps. Satisfaction. The quiet, cold satisfaction of watching a plan execute perfectly. And this brings me to the most important question of this entire situation, one that I genuinely do not have the answer to yet, and I want you to think about very carefully before you drop your take in the comments. Is the mystery attacker actually going to recover from this? Because WWE has been deliberately vague about the physical condition of this individual post-attack. The language being used in official communications is careful enough to leave genuine ambiguity around whether we are dealing with a storyline injury that will be used to write this person off television temporarily, or whether this attack has created real physical consequences that change the trajectory of this story in ways that were never originally planned. That ambiguity is either masterful storytelling or it is genuine crisis management, and right now, from where I am sitting, I genuinely cannot tell you with certainty which one it is. And that uncertainty is itself one of the most compelling things about this moment in WWE history. What I can tell you with absolute certainty is this: SmackDown will never be the same after last night. The backstage culture of that show, the relationships between the superstars, the trust that is required to operate in a shared professional environment, all of it has been fundamentally compromised by what happened in that corridor. Every superstar walking into that building next week will be looking over their shoulder. Every alliance will be quietly re-evaluated. Every friendship will be examined for cracks and vulnerabilities. And somewhere in that building, the unknown wrestler who left someone for dead last night will walk in calmly, settle into their routine, smile at their colleagues, and wait. Patient, invisible, already planning the next move in a game that most of the roster does not even know they are playing yet. This is the moment I need you to act. Comment below right now. Who do you think the unknown attacker is? Do you believe WWE is covering up details about this incident? Do you think the mystery attacker survives this, or is their storyline finished for good? I want every single theory, every wild take, every piece of evidence you have been collecting. Drop it all in the comments right now, because this community has solved WWE mysteries before and we are going to solve this one together. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know immediately. This is not optional. This is the biggest story in WWE right now, and Ring Rumble 1 is the only place breaking it down with the depth and honesty it deserves. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this story is moving fast and we are going to be covering every single development in real time as it happens. Ring Rumble 1. We see what WWE does not want you to see. Always.